welcome to another episode of Fireside Chat. And today our theme is gig economy and specifically the practices around gig economy in developed nations like UK. Thank you, El. In today's session, we would be discussing about practices around gig economy across geographies. And I'm thankful to El for taking out time and sharing some of our point of view around the theme and practices normally you would see in UK. If you want to know more about El, then I have given the details in the description. Feel free to reach out to El, and definitely she would be willing to help you out with regard to your queries related to gig economy. So El, welcome to another episode of Dr. HR. I'm super excited and thank you so very much for taking out time and joining us all the way from Scotland. El, my first question to you would be, how do you look at these gig workers? Because, of late, plenty of jargons, people have started using. In certain cases, certain geographies, we talk about these are, on-call services workers. In certain other places, we say these are contractual. In some cases, we call them part-time workers. So how do you define these gig workers and who exactly are these gig workers?
That's a really interesting question, and I think that it's evolving constantly. But if we take a step back and think back to maybe 20 years ago, if we talked about somebody being a freelancer or a consultant, it would probably have meant that they maybe had either one or two jobs going on sort of rolling contracts, or say if they were maybe a freelance journalist, as I was back in the day, that they would write for various publications. And I think back then, this type of work, it was considered to be maybe quite unstable. It was something that, it felt like hard work and it wasn't the norm at all. And that was really sort of freelance consulting, contractual work. So there were some definitions there. Then what happened is that technology evolved rapidly and people were able to access this kind of work, maybe short-term work, gigs as they became known, via online platforms or apps. And that changed everything dramatically because it meant that the work was easier to come by and easier to do in really short bursts, whether that was blue collar work or white collar consulting, these types of things. So suddenly everything got sort of thrown into this big gig economy pot. Then at the same time, we had lots of media news stories around the gig economy, which focused very specifically on certain platforms, mainly are ride-hailing apps, and I think we both know who I'm talking about, and talking about workers' rights. And then people started to connect the gig economy with specifically these workers. So people who are maybe doing sort of ad hoc cleaning jobs or maybe working in the health and beauty space, doing this kind of work for an online platform, didn't maybe necessarily want to see themselves as gig workers, and maybe wanted to sort of connect maybe more with the term freelance, etc. So in answer to your question, I think there are lots of different ways of describing this way of working, and I don't think that we've necessarily quite set on what that term is going to be. Obviously at the moment, and what you and I are talking about today, is the gig economy, and I'm quite happy with that term, but I think there's some catching up to do as to what that really encompasses, and I don't think everyone's quite settled on that definition yet.
Typically, when you talk about Indian case scenario, when you talk about gig workers, somehow there is a social stigma attached to it. And is that significantly different in Western developed markets like UK? How do you look at it? And what can organizations do or societies do at large to address such, social issues? Any thoughts around it?
It's interesting the way that this gig term has become associated with maybe lower paid, unstable types of work and not necessarily embraced by the more consultancy, white collar end of the spectrum. Whereas I think the idea of the gig economy and the concept of it, that people have control over their earnings and how they, who they interact with, who they work with via these tech platforms. I think that it's not necessarily the case that everyone is keen to embrace that term. And I would say that that's definitely the case in the UK. And also possibly to a lesser degree in the US. I do see a lot more people talking around gig work there. And there's also a term that's very popular in the US and to a lesser degree in the UK, which is when people talk about side hustles. I don't know if that's a term that we necessarily use in India, but the idea that you maybe have a main job, but that you are increasing your income by having extra gigs. And this is seen as something that is maybe, a smart way of living and working, that you've got your side hustles or your side gigs going on top of a main income stream. So in that sense, there is an association there, which is maybe that somebody is, using technology and using their skills to be, smart, earn a bit more, and kind of almost beat the system in a way. So there is that association as well. So it's very interesting seeing how this word can be used. And also, like I was saying before, that the media have very much picked on the term gig economy to be associated with a minimal amount of workers' rights, possibly exploitation by big platforms. And when people read these media stories, that lodges in their head. So they think of the gig economy as being something that's maybe unsafe, something that maybe will lead to them being exploited or working on a 0 hours contract and not getting the benefits they need, etc. And I know we're going to talk about things like support and benefits, etc. in a minute, but I think that is part of the stigma that's attached to gig work.
Sure. True. Typically, when you talk about gig workers or gig economy, as a concept, it is not new. But any specific reason, according to you, Al, why this gig economy has gained momentum, specifically during this unprecedented times?
Well, we've certainly seen a huge increase in people accessing work via gig platforms. And I think, one of the main reasons for that is that in general, there has been a huge increase in the amount of people tapping into tech to access what they need. And I mean, obviously that applies to a lot of things. So say, for example, you used to go to a gym, you're now accessing your exercise classes on YouTube. So you had a face-to-face tutor coming around to your house, and they can't do that anymore. So you're using an online platform for tutoring your kids in their maths, that type of thing. So we've seen a huge uptake in people using platform technology to access goods and services. And obviously the gig economy is part of that. So whereas people might have looked for gig work by, actually going out and about, looking for short-term work, it's actually now a case of them picking up their phone and doing that. So there's this huge uptake in platform technology. But also behind that, there's actually a need to access work, because a lot of people, and especially here in the UK, every week we're hearing new rounds of redundancies being announced at big UK companies. This week it was Marks and Spencer's, one of the big UK retailers. They've just announced a huge amount of redundancies because obviously the stores are being massively affected by the lack of footfall thanks to the lockdown. So we've got people that are in a situation where their income has become precarious, and they're thinking now how they can increase their revenue and actually attract new revenue streams, and possibly in an ad hoc way and through multiple sources. And obviously the gig economy is really important for that as well. And I think there's a third reason that the gig economy has grown in this recent period, and that's because people are suddenly no longer in their offices all day. So they have maybe got an extra couple of hours at the beginning and the end of the day when they would normally be commuting, because they're working from home now. So that allows them to be more flexible and have more hours in the day. And maybe they're working now around children who aren't at school, although here in the UK, children are now starting to go back to school. We've obviously had a long period of time where the children have been at home. So a need for flexible work and an increased amount of hours in the day thanks to lack of commute, and a need for extra revenue streams have all added to the fact that people are suddenly thinking, if I can fit in an hour doing this here or an hour doing that there, I can do that around my family time in lockdown, but I can also attract a little bit more income as well. And obviously the technology is there for them to do that. And I suppose just to throw in one more point about why the crisis, why the pandemic has attracted people to the gig economy, is that there's been a really renewed interest in community, which for me, as somebody that is very interested in online communities that represent communities on the ground and the connection between sharing and gig economy platforms with communities in real life, this has been really great to see. So I think that people have been going to Facebook groups to see how they can maybe help people who are in quarantine locally, how they can support their local community in terms of promoting local businesses or delivering essentials to people who are maybe vulnerable, these types of things. And so needing to connect with these people when you're not able to do that in person has obviously led people to be seeking out community groups. And on those groups, in turn, there are job listings for people needing support. So lots of things are pushing people in the direction of gig platforms and online and app-based work. So it's a really interesting time at the moment to see these various factors.
This gig economy is here to stay, and definitely, thankfully, it has gained momentum. But still, if we have to really push it forward, what do you think as a nation, as HR professionals, as organizations, what are a couple of things that, we got to be doing it on priority just to promote it further?
I think, again, if we go back to the pandemic situation of 2020, this has pushed forward quite a lot of agendas here and, shone quite a harsh light on some of the differences between the way that governments treat full-time workers versus gig workers. And certainly in the UK and in America, as soon as governments announced furlough schemes for workers and support for workers in full-time employment, there was an outcry from all the people who were freelancers or gig workers saying, what about us? And, it didn't take long for the US and UK governments to then push out a support scheme for these workers, which I think, is a real positive shift, because this is something that is happening. It's happening at pace, and it's really, up to governments to actually recognise that and to change their legislation and regulation and support to match the innovations that's happening in the job market. I mean, this is what the future of work looks like. And I don't think it's just governments as well, it's financial services, and we've got to think about the type of insurance and benefits and pensions and all the financial products that people need to support them as a gig worker. These companies need to adapt and evolve. So a lot of pressure is put on the platforms themselves, and a lot of criticism is put on platforms themselves for not supporting their workers. But I also think it's about governments and also companies that support workers to evolve at the same pace. So we see the gig economy, we see this huge uptake in that type of work. We see things moving forward at pace, but I think that we can't just blame the platforms. We've got to look at change, and we've all got to be part of that change, and that goes for governments as well, and for financial services authorities to actually understand that this change is something that is not going to go backwards now. So products and support need to evolve at the same pace so that gig workers are protected.
Thanks a ton, and hope to see you again in some other episodes of Dr. HR.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.